Hey everybody, this is Nate Smoyer, and you're listening to the Tech Nest Podcast. This is the show where we sit down with the leaders in real estate and technology to find out what they're doing to transform the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. If you've got an interest in real estate and technology, stick around. You're in the right place. All right, we've got a great show for you today and a really awesome story. We got Jeanna Carr. She is the co-founder of a company called Rent Assured, and they describe themselves as a property management solution made for landlords, loved by tenants. Now, just imagine this. You've got tenants. You've had them for about 5 years. You think everything's good. You don't hear a lot of problems. You know, you had some communications over the years, but nothing major. And then suddenly you get a text message that says, hey, we're gone. We're leaving tomorrow. And when you show up to look at the property, there's holes in every single closet door. And somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000, you can assume in damage right off the bat. You're going to get nervous. To make matters worse, the tenants then text you and say that if you don't return all the deposit, they're going to sue you. Well, this is the scenario that Jeanna found herself in, and it's what led her to found the company Rent Assured. Challenges and her story, and I think it's fascinating. We had to just start off with all that, but anyway, I don't want to give it away, so let's just jump right into it. Well, hey Jeanna, welcome to the show.
Hi Nate, thank you so much for having me today.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being willing to come on the show, talk about what you're working on. We had an opportunity to talk a little bit before the interview, so I'm actually pretty pumped for this because I think you have an interesting story, and I'm excited for people to hear it. But before we go too far into that, why don't you go ahead, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeanna Carr, and I'm co-founder and CEO of a software solution called Rent Assured. And we're kind of new into the technology, real estate, everyone's calling prop tech, property technology space. And we're founded right here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So we're a startup that's a little bit under a year old.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got a buzzing startup scene in North Carolina, right?
Oh, yes. The entrepreneurship vibe and the resources that are available here in Winston-Salem are amazing. Actually, throughout the triad in North Carolina in general, we are housed here in a nonprofit space called Winston Starts. Mm-hmm. It's an incubator. So I believe it's up to 19 companies now that have applied and gained access.
Oh, wow.
So the resources to extend our runway, free legal services, a desk, unlimited coffee, which I definitely take advantage of on a regular basis as a startup founder. And it's right here in downtown in the old GMAC insurance building. Don Flo has the space now, and the incubator is located on the 4th and 5th floor. So you can find me on the 4th floor downtown.
There we go. I was making a little bit of a lighthearted joke. I didn't realize, honestly, that there was such a scene of where you were at.
Oh, really? It's transformative, especially for those kind of underserved populace in the startup world in regards to gaining capital and resources themselves. Mm-hmm. Founders like myself, it's amazing. That Venture Cafe is a networking opportunity, also a nonprofit, which connects entrepreneurs to resources, venture capitalists, and potential customers just by having every Thursday event. There's also Flywheel locally. That's a co-working space, and then it also has some programming. And that's actually kind of where our story started. So yeah, let's get to that because we're going to talk about your company Rent Assured. But before we get into that, I want to talk about your background story too. And you alluded, you're new to the prop tech scene. What drove you to enter the prop tech scene? Because we've all got our different stories, and I always love hearing the origins because that really, I think, sets the tone up for what you're going after and the problem you're trying to solve. So fill us in. What was the journey that led to starting Rent Assured? I appreciate that, Nate. Are you sure you want to know? It involves blood, sweat, tears. Actually, it involved my husband and I became accidental landlords. So we were going to sell our property in 2008-ish when there was a big shift in the real estate industry. So we ended up renting the property. Fast forward 5 years after that, and we received a text message. We thought our landlord or their tenants and us as landlords were on the same page. I didn't really necessarily feel like the Cruella de Vil, this evil character in our story yet. Until I got that text message and it said, we're leaving tomorrow. So less than 24-hour notice, they left. We showed up on the property kind of in awe and shock. What are we going to do next? I thought the lease said they had to give us 30 days notice, et cetera, et cetera. We arrived to holes in every single closet door, burnt carpet, piles of trash. It was over $12,000 worth of damage, Nate.
Wow. And these were tenants for 5 years?
Yes. And it's not that we ignored them or didn't see the property. We would stop by every now and then. The relationship, I thought, was cordial.
Right.
But as I noticed them parking in the grass, and the grass slowly going away, we would mention certain things. But really, when I look back, there was no central place where this communication occurred. And other than that contract, there was no, I guess, kind of starting point where we were all on the same page and they knew. I just assumed they read the contract that they signed, the lease agreement. Right? So
they read the contract. Who reads the contract?
Right? There wasn't really fine print. It was pretty standard 6-7 page contract, too. So, yeah, I immediately was infuriated, and then tears came. I'm not too tough to admit.
Oh, no.
I was bawling my eyes out, thinking, how could they do this to us? We never raised rent on them. We didn't charge them a pet deposit. That was a big mistake. Just different things like that. So we open the door, we go in. There is literally holes in every closet door, a burn mark where they had a commercial fire pit type deal, and just this overwhelming smell of dog urine. Long list. Windows, there was thousands of bugs piled. I seriously could go on for this whole interview. I'm going to save you. Fast forward the next day, I come back and I am scrubbing the walls, literally boogers. Can I say boogers on the podcast? Boogers.
You can say that. There's no language. This is 18 and older, I suppose. Keep it clean, but you say what you want.
Before I come on, Nate. So explicit crying tears, cleaning boogers off the wall. And then my husband calls me to tell me that he received a text that said, we figured you'd be a little bit nitpicky, so we've contacted an attorney. If you don't return all of our deposit, minus $80 for that one burn hole in the carpet, we're going to sue you.
That's amazing. So they were preemptive on, hey, by the way, we know we left that place in a wreck, but we're going to sue you if you don't give us all your money or all of our money back. That is wow.
Right?
They could sell anything. I bet those people are fantastic ice salespeople up to the Eskimos. They can sell anything.
I know. It was crazy. It was crazy. So all the emotions that go into it, just being a human being who rented their home out of necessity. Really, it sat vacant for a couple of years, but the family came in. They seemed great. Things that I reflect on now will lead to essentially the story Rent Assured. But in that moment of upset, I felt betrayed. $12,000 worth of damage. I mean, alone. And then they're threatening to sue us, the audacity. So I called my close friend, who we were both customers in each other's companies. These are not both of our first startups, but we like to solve some messy problems for people, including personal connected stories. So she and her husband had a company called Docsmore, and they have innovated the way that you do documents. So digital transformation in documentation. And so I called her after reflecting and thinking, wow, they're going to sue us. I need to collect all these contracts, all the communication, everything, and I could not find it. So after 40 hours of collecting what I could, I realized I didn't even know if it would hold up in court.
Because this is probably a pretty common scenario, right? I mean, a landlord, like you're saying, you had them for tenants for 5 years. You signed the lease. I mean, in that 5 years, you could have moved once or twice. You rearranged the office. You got a new filing cabinet. So
3 phones.
And then, you had multiple phones. So text message like my text messages auto delete after 2 weeks. Because if I don't, it actually takes up a lot of space on your phone. People don't realize that.
Very good point. Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any history of text messages ever, period. So there's it's pretty difficult to keep a paper trail.
Exactly. And then even for the text messages going back, not only did I not have all the ones that 2 or 3 phones ago that I should have had, even the ones I had, how would I prove that those text messages happened during that time period. I'm snapping photos. And then even for the photos, taking photos and then going back and somehow connecting them to the time and point that I took them, right?
Right.
So it all comes down to being so time consuming. Even at that, the lawyer wanted $500. No problem, we'll win it. $500. Just go gather all this. 40 hours later, I put it into a nice little package. And again, I didn't even know if it would hold in court. And you know what's funny, Nate? When I look back to the time that they moved in, I thought I was being slick. I took photos. Do you remember when Tiger Woods was in some trouble and his wife took a golf club to his car? I'm sure, does everyone out there remember? I'm sure you do.
I remember him being in the news, but I don't remember the golf club.
Yeah, his wife. Well, you're going to be Googling this afterwards. But his wife was very upset at him for what he was doing. And yeah, so I took that newspaper when I took photos to kind of date stamp it, right? This is when these photos were taken. And then when I went back to find all those, either the image was blurry or it was halfway in some, and I'm like, what was I doing? So it came down to me realizing I wasn't prepared, even when I did not feel like we were wrong. Even though it seemed blaringly obvious that they were in the wrong, how dare they?
Yeah.
So I collected all this and I called Bobby. I'm like, I should have been better prepared. I don't know why I wasn't. I do not want this to happen to anyone else again. And so Bobby and I started talking and we came up with a solution to essentially keep everyone on the same page from move in to move out.
Got it.
Doubt if they saw those pictures side by side, they would have threatened to sue. And if they had, I would have had everything, all these documents, etc., all in one spot, or I needed it all in one spot for easy access.
Right. So long story short on that one, though, you didn't have to pay out a settlement, right? You won that one. You won that battle?
Well, here's what happened. When they received this huge 40-plus page, letter itemization with all the photos and stuff that I did have along with the contract, they just kind of went away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people I speak to now say, well, did you get the $12,000 back? Honestly, I would think that I would want to go for that, but the legal fees to gain that $12,000 would not have been worth it. We would have spent more on legal fees than we would potentially on getting any type of reward.
That's such a bittersweet victory because obviously, you didn't have to worry with the lawsuit. They probably, maybe they went back to their so-called lawyer and they were like, yeah, it's going to cost you more to get your deposit back than your deposit costs. So just let it go. Mm-hmm. But then you also miss out on all the damages. I mean, you're out of pocket on all those damages. And, unfortunately, it also costs you time and money even just to get to that point. So how does this tie into Rent Assured and what you guys, what's how do you see that as connected to the problem that you're trying to solve through Rent Assured?
So the big messy problem really came down to time, money, damage, and how we could have avoided all of that. And really, it was being on the same page from move in to move out, even pre-move in. So with Rent Assured, we created a software solution that housed all these main communication features. So digitalized workflows, electronic documents backed by blockchain e-signature, photos with time, date, and geo-stamped, maintenance and communication all in one place, also within Rent Assured. So communication is almost like a chat feature in real time. Maintenance, not only can they initiate a maintenance request from either landlord and tenant side, but it can be marked with urgency, and there can be a video with sound. So the landlord can quickly diagnose and remedy issues faster, hopefully leading to less damage. You would not believe right now how many landlords or property managers with their tenants are within text messages, emails, and or not communicate well at all.
Let me just go on record and say I have made all of those mistakes. I am not unique. My very first tenant I ever rented to, I may or may not have did 0 background eviction checks or even verification of income.
When you just let them move in?
Well, he was just renting some storage space. He had the deposit. He paid the first month's rent. And I said, sure, you can move in. Do your thing.
You're like, this guy looks great.
And,
and it sounds all judgy, but we did not do a background check either.
Well, and it's so important because, now hold on. That tenant, I got lucky. I will say it hands down. I got lucky. He was a great tenant for 3 years, ended up being kind of like taking on the role of handyman for our house that was a rental. And it totally worked out. But in no way, shape, or form should I have ever let anyone move into any bit of property without ever having done any of those checks. I mean, I was just leaving myself open to issues. And kind of like what you just talked about, though, like all the communications. We had some stuff that was very loosey-goosey, and had he not been so flexible and easy to talk to and also open to talking and making sure we had a great relationship, like that could have gone sour really fast. And I would have had to like try to piecemeal a ton of stuff together that there's no way I would have been able to prove anything.
It's not fun. It is definitely not fun. And here, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And that's the problem is we thought we were just safe and secure. And we are part of the Triad Real Estate Investors Association locally.
Okay.
And so far, we are gaining early adopters. And you would not believe how many people, even though their processes seem decent and they're doing what they're doing. But for example, we have a early adopter. She's a property manager with 33 units. She is in Excel and Dropbox and photos on her phone. So it works for her right now. But the time that we can save her, the time that we are starting to save her, is valuable. What would you do with all that extra time? So she didn't know that there was something out there that existed like Rent Assured, and we just became a product not too long ago. So everything that was out there that I looked for, oh my gosh, I should have done this better. They're suing us. I thought I had everything. What's out there? It was either way cumbersome and or super expensive for myself, a landlord with less than 100 properties. Also, it still didn't necessarily engage the tenant. So that's another part of the problem is keeping everyone on the same page and then engaging them. Because if you're just emailing them or waiting for them to email you if there's damage or you stop by once a quarter, you're not really doing yourself a service. Because at the end of the tenancy, or when you do pop in maybe once or twice a year, all that damage could already have been there, right?
Right.
When they know you have a software solution where they are part of the communication and they can see that you are also seeing the communication it's almost like a chat feature on the same page. They know when you read it and you know when they read the communication. And so there is no confusion about who's going to do what and when. And here's the thing too, is as we're out here as a new company and we're doing discovery and we're hearing what our customers need and want, what they like about our product and what they would want to see added, we're realizing some individuals will ask, well, why would the landlord, you wouldn't want the landlord to necessarily have the tenant see all of this, would you? And the answer is yes, they do. Because again, the stereotype is the landlord is some type of, excuse language, like a slumlord. That all landlords out there are just out to get their tenants. And from a tenant perspective, I can see where that's coming from. I rented a lot of properties, especially in my college days, right?
Yep.
And I can tell you some stories on the tenant side. So the value that is seen for the tenant is, wow, this really helps the tenant also. But the landlord and property manager want that. I wanted to give them their deposit back. I wanted to walk in and my place be spanking new looking, right? No holes everywhere. That costs us money, time, and then to flip it, right? To get more tenants in there. That's costing money. The longer the unit is out to be serviced or uplifted, it's more time that we're out that monthly rent.
That's right. You're 100% right. And that time period is crucial to get things turned around fast. So then you've got this communication channel, I'm assuming it's more than just chat. What are some of the features that you guys have built into Rent Assured now? And then what's the roadmap looking like? Because, I know that you guys are still relatively new and you're building this product out.
Great question. So our minimal viable product, our software solution is live and it's fully functional. And then we have enhancements that I think you got a sneak peek of down the road. So what's on the product now is the core features that any property or landlord would need to streamline communication, maintenance, payments, and documentation. So when someone signs up, they can upload, when a landlord signs up, they can upload documents, and then our development team makes them fillable. From there on, the document is housed within Rent Assured. So they can send out and invite tenants to come on board for their unit. All that documentation is electronic backed by blockchain e-signature and is filled out online within Rent Assured. That's it. Once it's filled out, the PDF copy is documented and housed. You can download it into a PDF package for later on if you need it with your photos and additional communications. Photos, you can have them upload and take photos from Rent Assured. So during the move-in process, I filled out the application. I filled out whatever other documents you need from me, again, within Rent Assured. And then I take photos as a landlord, and then the tenant that I've invited to use Rent Assured can also take photos or upload photos. We can see those side by sides for move-in, throughout the tenancy, and then if you want them to take move-out photos. I can also pay. So as the tenant, I can either pay with like an ACH setup, I can pay with a credit card via Stripe, or I can still mail you a check and you can invoice me as a landlord. And then for communication, again, all in one place, in real time, and then maintenance as well. It's a different function within the app. And then the same with move-out checklist, anything that a landlord wants to see. We make it easy for the landlord to utilize the forms and their processes. And we give best practices too. So if they're not exactly sure where to start, maybe they're a first-time investor and they have one property, we help along those lines as well. And we offer, I think, 3 or 4 static forms in there that people can use. What we're finding out, though, is landlords and property managers already have the forms that they'd like to use. They just don't like to have to fill them out or put them in Adobe or DocuSign every single time.
Yeah. And it gets a pain in the butt when you have to do that, though, too. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, time consuming. Every little step. So all these steps and all these minutes that you take interacting don't seem like a lot at the time, but if you look back, that could be a whole week-long vacation you spent in Excel or text or email. So all that time that you're saving and then the stress and the hassle of it, I promise you, I have probably at least 5 new gray hairs just from that experience. Yeah. Just being a first-time landlord and coming into that amount of damage.
There's a lot of things you don't know as a first-time landlord. And honestly, there's also this, maybe you can relate to this, but I'll admit guilt to this as well. As a first-time landlord, you're like, I'm not going to be one of those landlords. I'm going to just let my tenants live their life and do their thing.
Love me.
And then the first time you get the first hiccup, you're like, oh, so this is why there's so many rules.
Right.
And you realize like, hey, maybe it wasn't communicated well that these rules are here, because if you don't set clear expectations, that ambiguity is what opens up opportunity for who knows what to happen. And, I've got great tenants now, but when they called me to say, or they texted me, hey, we have a dog we're checking out for the day. I was like, okay, there's no pet deposit down. So, and then I got the text later in the day, dog didn't work out. He destroyed the blinds in the living room.
Oh,
well, they're custom fitted window treatments. They're 3-inch blinds on we got an 8-foot bay window.
I'm sorry to laugh at that. I just know your pain. So,
I'm like, you guys are not going to want that bill. That is not cheap.
And all this is happening in text message, right? So that's what I realized. So one of the biggest things right now for Rent Assured, talking about the big features and how we're innovating it, is all of this, the whole life cycle of the tenancy, can be downloaded into a PDF package. So you can share it with your lawyer if you need be. Hopefully being on the same page kind of mitigates that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it were to happen, you have all your documents, all your communication, all the photos, maintenance requests. Even if they decide, as a tenant, I'm just not going to engage and I'm not going to use it. We haven't found that to be statistically true as we've rolled out early adopters. But say that's even the case, then you can at least prove that you communicated as a landlord.
Right.
And you were very clear that this is that where you decided that all the communication and I guess the life cycle of the tenancy is stored. And if they decide they're not going to refuse, we have proof they have a login. You have proof they have a login and they have an account. And
right.
So if you have to send it to your insurance company or you have to send it to your lawyer, you have it. But what I found is that when our previous tenants, and will not name them, but they were good salespeople, if they had seen this when they did receive that 40 plus page packet with photos and itemization, they just went away. And I think that's what did it. I don't necessarily think they were bad people. Trust me, I had a lot of time to think about it. But I don't think they were bad people. I just think that over 5 years, we assumed they were going to clean up their mess. And they thought, that's part of me renting. You made money. So,
right.
So what was the expectation above normal wear and tear? And what's going to help, and what we found is that our future enhancements are going to quickly include tenant screening. We're actually in the interview process right now. We want a really great, innovative, and landlord property manager friendly tenant screening, background screening company.
Okay.
And then after we roll through that, some of the biggest enhancements are always going to be along our unique value prop. And that is engaging the tenant. Because when you engage the tenant, you create loyalty. You create so many positive effects on the actual landlord because the tenant is the customer.
I'm so glad you just said that. And I think it's worth repeating, the tenant is the customer, because this is a soapbox for me. Like, this is one of those things that I just
stand on it.
Because, well, I think this is what's driven. This is what's going to drive innovation, and this is going to hurt some of those legacy property management companies that have had a hold on areas, and this is what's going to push out the slumlords, so to speak, to where no one's going to rent from them unless they literally have no other option, which is that's a whole other issue. But the tenant is the customer, and even if you're selling to the landlord, the focus has got to be on the tenant experience. And when the tenant experience is good, not to continue bringing up my examples, but I mean, like when I raised rent on my tenants last year 5%, they signed because I also replaced a water heater in less than 12 hours of it blowing. And got on a new washer and dryer within a day of the washer, burning out. And had the plumber the first day that there was a leak in the bathroom. We'll call the plumber, had the plumber there, boom, taken care of. And so, if you want a landlord who responds well and makes living there enjoyable, then they'll pay for it. And so keeping that tenant experience top of mind. But if they hate you, if they resent you, if you never talk to them, and like you said, like you feel like you're on a good, level with them, but then it turns out apparently they thought really negatively of you and they left your place as a reflection of that. Like it's a no good situation for anyone.
Yes, and especially the landlord. And I'm glad you brought that up because a disgruntled tenant, whether you realize it or not, they feel entitled. So literally a hole in every single closet door was my experience. I think they felt entitled just to leave it there. And I'm thinking, what did I do? Reflecting back, what did I do or say that made them feel this way? And I still don't know why they thought that was okay, unless, again, that they just didn't notice it or thought that was part of us, renting that, you made enough money on us, you can go fix that. So not understanding what legally is above normal wear and tear or not. So, and it sounds like you're on top of it, and it is amazing. So even for landlords like yourself, and we're finding a high percentage of landlords that they just want their tenant happy because they see the value in it. They see less damage. They see longevity of the rental cycle. They see consistent payments. They see people who take better care of their property and aren't disgruntled and might not, try to do adverse action against the landlord. So even with yourself, and you're on top of it via text message. You're on top of it via email, correct?
Right.
So not only with Rent Assured can we save you time. So that's the big value for you with Rent Assured right now is the time. We'll save you time. And then if something were to happen, you can rest assured with Rent Assured. That's not really our tagline, but so that if something were to happen, you're on the same page, and then you can download it. So even if they're like, hey, Nate, you didn't say that, you can say, well, actually, Fred, right here on this archived conversation, on September 8th, this is where we had this conversation. So I apologize, but this is the best route. And when you engage quickly, we're in the era, it's 2019. I do not understand how people are still on paper. how they're still in outdated processes and systems. We want everything yesterday. We want it fast, especially the millennials, which are what, over 65% of the market now?
And what is it? Gen Z is the next level, and it's not going to be entirely all that much different. Student debt's not being wiped away anytime soon. Buying is not going to get easier, especially if we see any increase in interest rates. Wages aren't exactly jumping for one generation more than they are for the next. So you're right. I mean, we're going to be in a renter's market, I think, for some foreseeable time. So keeping that the focus is, I think it makes a lot of sense. I do want to ask this one. We're talking a little bit about, the landlord back and forth, kind of the single family unit, so to speak. And it's probably more often than not, the individual DIY landlord, they have one, maybe two properties, but definitely less than five majority of the time. But what about those who maybe have a fourplex or other smaller type multifamily? Can they use rent assured for that? Or is it really designed with single family units in mind?
Yes, I am so glad you asked that. So right now, we were an idea of June 5. So this lets you know how fast we're moving and where our target customer, I'm going to tell you, comes from. June 5, we were still an idea. We received some investment for equity in an accelerator programming, New Ventures. Mm-hmm. And with that funding and programming, we actually built the software solution. My co-founder is amazing, Bobby Srivastava. She's been in technology for over a decade and a half in digital transformation. So innovation and technology and UX, UI, all of that. Running a tech team, we have a dedicated team of 3 in Nepal that work on rent assured. So we got that done in less than 3 months. So on September 7th, we had a live, fully developed software solution.
Wow.
And we call our minimal viable product. It was ready for testing. So we were in testing for a few months. And then we started gaining early adopters this month. So what we're finding right now is our initial target was those from 1 to 25, maybe 50 units. Landlords that resonated with myself. And if you remind me later, I will tell you Bobby's story that happened after we started Rent Assured as a landlord. But that was our initial target. As we started testing and pitching and being out in the ecosystem more, we found that their main target, people who knew they had a problem and were really reaching out and just saying, let me try it, was anywhere from 10 to 25 up to 100 units. So our target market is 25 to 100 units in the residential space.
Oh, okay.
We actually have, and it doesn't matter how many units they have. We just said units, which is an apartment. It could be a trailer park or a trailer in a trailer park. It could be a mobile home. It could be an apartment. It can be a unit in a duplex or multiplex. So as long as that unit is residential, that is our focus now. So the funny thing is we actually have a few commercial case studies going on right now where people had mini suites and they have 52 units. One of them has 52 units and they see the value. So we're not turning down any other customers. We just have a focus. So commercial, residential, and then short-term rental. We've had some interest in all levels, but our main focus right now is that residential because that's where our problems were. That's where our hearts are. And we don't want anyone to have to experience what we experienced.
Got it. I love it. And that kind of answered, who's using it, which is, it's going to be the landlords, like us, you and I, for the most part.
Landlords and property managers, believe it or not. So the woman I mentioned earlier with 33 units, who's in Excel, etc. Yeah, she manages properties for other individuals. She has some of her own as well. And another enhancement to go back on that came from her as she's utilizing our product. She has owners that she needs to report to. So she's like, I'd like to see an additional reporting feature here or an additional user for the owner. So that's also in the backlog. But again, it's around engaging the tenant because the tenant is the customer in any situation.
Sure.
And by engaging them instead of what's out there right now, just kind of talks at them, right? And then there's a few product enhancements down the road also that will help excite and make it,
Got it. Are you guys, already nationwide or you have any particular markets you're focusing on as you, work out the bugs and really get up to speed on everything?
So our main focus, beta in year 1, or early adopters year 1, is North Carolina. So we're reaching out, networking locally. And one of the biggest reasons is it makes discovery easier. We're a lightweight cloud-based platform. So even as we expand, we'll be able to make changes quicker than those that aren't. But the voice of our customer is always what matters. And so we've made some enhancements already with our development team, even the past week, in regards to tenant engagement. So inviting the tenant as a user, we've added additional buttons in different places within the more UX UI design type changes or enhancements. But after that, year 2 and 3, we're going to focus on the states, 15 states with the highest rental markets. And past that, we're going to go nationwide. But again, right now, especially being a young startup, if someone in California says, hey, I love this, I see this, I want to try it. Okay.
Right.
Let's get you on board. Let's see what you think. Because anyone who can find our tool useful and we can help, besides just the revenue part of it, we are a for-profit business. Besides that, we are learning, we're engaging, and we're helping in an area that hasn't really been modernized, right? I mean, you know better than most. In the past 10 years, all this property technology in the rental industry it's a buzz. And Forbes wrote an article month or two ago that talked about the modernization opportunity, right? The opportunity for innovating and modernizing the real estate industry.
Right.
We're glad we're a part of that. Yeah,
I've over the years, I was a pretty savvy renter. I found a way to find, this is so terrible. I found a way, when I was a tenant, I looked at it as an adversarial relationship. That was just my perspective. So I always looked for the landlord who appeared to me to be under-resourced and didn't know what they were doing. And that's how I always got into units. I never made enough money at the time, or didn't, I wasn't worried about background checks, but I didn't want to have to go through that stuff. So the first time I ever went through a background check, this is kind of crazy now that I think about it. It must have been 10 years, no less, of me renting that I went through a background check. And I got this link, she sends me this link. It says, go to this place, and it has me entered in my social security card and then number and then payment. And I remember just looking at the platform. It didn't look trustworthy. I'm working at a software company. So, I'm looking at this thing like, I am not putting my information into this unencrypted, who knows what black hole. Not going to happen. And I just didn't do it. I told my landlord, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll fill out another one, but I'm not doing that one. I'm not. So that, it's have to build something that people trust and want to use. And I love to hear that you guys are taking that in the incremental steps of working locally. So you get close that feedback loop, for product, those who are product makers out there or managers obviously understand the importance of, keeping a tight feedback loop and then expanding outside of that, which, I'd say kudos to you guys on the strategy of just focusing on the top rental markets versus just going everywhere. I think that's a pretty smart play and makes a lot of sense. As you've been going though, so you've been working locally and you're getting a lot of that feedback. What's some of the things that you've heard come back that maybe you thought was going to be a good idea, but you quickly realized, hey, that's not going to work and we're going to need to change up? Like, what would be one thing that you could share that, an idea you had to pivot away from or a lesson you had to learn already?
Okay, so a lesson we had to learn as a startup. So I don't know if I was clear about this. Bobby is another female. And so we are an all-female founded company. Gaining access to capital in this area is a little bit more challenging. I think it's challenging nationwide for female entrepreneurs in general. And so it's a double-edged sword. It's great to be female founders now because the tide is turning. So there's a lot of opportunity that's growing, but it's just not there yet. So what we learned straight off the bat is we were lucky to have the support of New Ventures and gained some funding for equity. But we learned very quickly that you can't necessarily count on everything that's out there, right? And I think that's in business in general. So to gain resources, to gain momentum, and you have your strategy as an entrepreneur, the things you have to pivot around is, wait a minute, here's our development, it's happening, we're testing it. And if there's a little hiccup and you have to change something up, you then have to readjust based on your budget. And again, as a startup, it's not that large, right?
Right.
So we went out and grabbed as many resources and support in the community as we can. So that's one of the things we realized really quick is you can have a great idea. You can even execute it. But without the tools and resources available to you, it's much more challenging, right? So, for example, Lou and Flanders Stack, the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce runs the entrepreneurship program out there and that collab. So we were part of their Launch Lab series, and we received some services from a local, I guess, partner, and that's TJ with Ember Tribe.
Right. My buddy TJ.
Services. Great guy. So he gave us some marketing services and some audience research, et cetera. So that helped move us forward. He applied and received recently from NCIDEA Foundation, a $10,000 grant. So that's helping move us forward. We are at Winston Starts, which I was writing earlier, helps extend our runway, free legal services, free resources, connections to customers as well. And then again, all the local resources here have helped us when we reached challenges or had to, I wouldn't necessarily say we pivoted from our actual product customer discovery, but we have kind of pivoted in our plan. And that is definitely centered around capital as an entrepreneur.
Got it. Yeah. And, I appreciate you bringing that up and shedding light on that. I've had a few guests on the show, a few episodes back, we had the co-founders of a company called Remarkably, 2 women co-founded the company, majority owned by women. And, they've talked about that as well. It's not kept them from being able to succeed, but there's some challenges specifically in, for whatever reason. And, I'm not willing to say, because I don't know all the facts. All I know is if you look at the numbers, a very, very small or a very small portion of all VC money goes to, majority women owned startups. And, that you can look at it and cut it any which way you want, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, the numbers are just straight through on it. So, it does seem like that's a significant challenge, but to what you were saying, there's actually quite a few networks that are now building up. There's Women in Prop Tech that I'm familiar with. There's Crew, which I think is for the commercial real estate sector. And I think these are great things. I mean, it's drawing attention to, hey, there's some amazing women founders out there and leaders in this, and let's not discount them. And for whatever reason, maybe they're not getting the spotlight. And, I thought that one really important article I think that everyone should read was from Michael Beckerman. He wrote about his conference, the CRETech conference in December last year. It was in New York. And he was pretty open about it. He said, look, we failed. We looked at our panel after the conference and we did a poor job in representing the industry. And there might have been some unintentionalness to that, right? But they looked at it and said, hey, this isn't right. And I can tell you, I went to the CRETech conference that was in LA a few months ago as well. And you could definitely see that there was a much better balance. And it wasn't just, we got to put a woman here, just so it equals out. It was, no, let's get the top in the industry. And, it was a much better representation for that. So, yeah, I think that's a significant challenge. And I know that there's probably a few other guests I've had on the show here who would probably agree with you that there's some unspoken and hidden, rules or barriers that are going to exist there. So, yeah, kudos for you on pushing against that.
We can have a whole, couple hours just on this topic in general. But I think you hit it on the head, noticing it and then making change against it. And again, not saying, okay, we need to bring more women to the table. Just give it an even playing field, because there's so many amazing female-founded companies out there that are making change and executing against it. We're going to grab that seat at the table. So whatever that looks like, whatever the reasons why it wasn't being done before in such, and I don't want to say equal, but in such low numbers, again, those are hours and hours. Winston Starts has a panel where all the female founders get together and we discuss some challenges that are specific to us, and we're making change. So just having the support systems out there is fabulous. But that's their biggest challenge thus far. Other than that, we've been pretty blessed to be supported by a local ecosystem, and we move forward very quickly. And a big part of it for any entrepreneur would be to see what resources are out there, see what connections you can gain, see what you can give back also, right? So I'll jump off my soapbox. We both jumped on the soapbox.
I've got like a million of them. But I'm saving that for my podcast show in the future called What Grinds My Gears.
Oh, I love it. I'll tune into that too. Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right. Well, speaking of moving forward and into the future, we're going to move into my favorite segment of the show. It's a little game I like to call For the Future. So For the Future is a segment where I get to ask each guest who comes on the show to give their best predictions based on the following 4 questions. Jeanna, are you ready to play?
Yes, I got to win something. Cup of coffee.
Oh, you know what? I never thought about doing prizes.
Oh, I was teasing, but I totally.
But that's such a good idea. Like I should do like prop tech history, and anyone who gets those questions right, oh man, that's such a great. I like that. Okay, we'll think of this. I might throw this on at the end of the show here. Okay, well, there might be a whole brand new segment coming up in the future. So, all right, let's start with the first one. This is the easiest one. Question number 1 on For the Future. What does Rent Assured look like 1 year from now?
1 year from now, Rent Assured will have at least 2,000 units on their platform. Happy customers. We will have enhanced to have some background checks. We have some referral companies, and we have a couple, I should say referral channels. And we have a couple of investors, some funds looking into investing in us right now. So if those occur, then the year from now will actually be probably triple what I just told you.
Right.
Not even further.
Question number 2. What will the housing market look like 1 year from now?
The housing market specific to rentals or housing market? Can you be more specific?
This is intentionally left to be a little ambiguous.
All right, I'm running it then.
So you answer this through your, you get to answer this through your lens.
Okay, so for the rental market themselves, I think we're going to take a little dip in the real estate buying market, which will only further increase the rental market. I think millennials are renting more and more, like we said, so innovation in property technologies will continue to increase upward right. And then also a lot of retirees are renting because they do not want, they don't want the hassle of mowing lawns, and they don't want, the HOA fees for homes that aren't in a condo on the beach.
They're cashing out that house they bought in 1982.
They go to relax and actually enjoy their retirement. So I say more retirees will be renting and more millennials. So the rental market will be great for Rent Assured.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Question number 3, what's one industry trend you think will continue, but you wish would go away?
I think the industry trend that will continue is, though it seems small during discovery, the eviction rate or the equal opportunity to fair housing. And I really don't know how to solve that problem, but if there's a way that we can help and dig in to solve that problem, we will. Not to name names, but even just recently in the last week or two, there was some local, I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it, slumlords, the city is jumping in now and taking active fines against individuals. And maybe, to track back to the where's Rent Assured in a year from now, maybe tenants are using our app a little bit more, regardless of whether their landlord does or not. Our customer is the landlord, but there's so much interest there, we're not going to shut that door either, because I still surmise that the majority of landlords and property managers want that happy engagement. But for those that aren't, we still want to be there to take the stress out of the whole rental, the life cycle of the tenancy, the whole rental concept from start to finish.
Got it. And the last one here, what's one thing you believe will dramatically change or fade away in real estate as a result of technological advances?
Paper, everything. Bye. Stop killing trees, my friends. Come on.
It's time to put the printer to rest.
Train. Yeah, I think the one-stop shop, bye-bye Excel, bye-bye paper. There's just no need for it anymore. So.
Awesome. Let's move on to the last 3 here. These are actually more focused on you, Jeanna, so our listeners can get to know you better. First one here is, what are you reading?
What am I reading? Besides your bio right now.
Don't read my bio.
Or what am I listening to? Do people read anymore?
I don't know. Hey, you tell me. I'll count audiobooks.
Okay. So my most recent audiobook, and it's going to be really cheesy. So I either have my most recent, actually, let me pull it up really quick. Greg McEwen, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less.
Oh, okay.
So I have that, and then I have Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So I have eclectic. So it's either entrepreneur books about time management and Atomic Habits by James Clear, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Oh, yeah.
Entrepreneur books. And then I have Nicholas Sparks, Every Breath, and Where the Crawdads Sing. Yeah.
Very
My
cool.
most recent book I would refer to any entrepreneur is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
And what is Atomic Habits?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tiny changes, remarkable results.
I haven't gotten to it yet. It's on my list, but honestly, I have. I've been so busy. I haven't read enough. I finished 2 books yesterday, though. Thank you very much.
What books were those?
I finally wrapped up PropTech 101 from Zach Aarons and Aaron Bach of Metaprop NYC. And then I also finally finished a book called Sway, which is about the irrational behavior of people, basically. Let me pull it up here. The irresistible pull of irrational behavior is the subtitle.
That's on my list. Both those, actually.
Yeah, Ori Brofman is the author. I've never read anything from him before. I'm pretty sure I think I added this to my list from following Ryan Holiday's reading lists. I pretty much buy half the books he recommends, and then I read those. That's how I get my books. So
I love that. And then podcasts, right?
Well, yeah, and then everyone who comes on the show, I get all the book recommendations from people like you.
Yeah. What's your favorite podcast besides Techness, the real estate and tech show?
All right.
Obviously, that's my
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Podcaster himself, Nate Smoyer, does not consistently listen to podcasts. That's the truth.
You're making them, though.
I binge the Metaprop, Fifth Wall, and the Real Estate Innovators podcasts. So I binge those, and I usually burn through them really quickly. And then I wait for them to come out with new content and then binge through them again. And only when I road trip, that's when I'll turn on Bigger Pockets and Malcolm Gladwell Revisionist History.
I like that stuff. One of our kind of advisors from the beginning, and he's actually a property manager. From September of last year to now, he's down in Charlotte, Huntersville area. Chris from Sun Properties. I just met with him last week. He brought his 65 units on board. So he went from 40 to 65 units. I'm like, how are you doing this? Right. Wow. So he has the processes he uses, behind the scenes. He's digging in with Rent Assured with his units and going to give some, he's going to be early adopter and give some feedback as well. But we went through a list of podcasts that he does and some of his best practices. And again, I think it's the realization that the residents, he calls them residents, are the guests. They are the customer, and that's who he tries to make happy. And I'm seeing that resonate during discovery with the best feedback and the landlords and property managers who want to jump on this innovative train, right? Yep. They want to try us out. They want to make it better for their tenants and themselves. But he recommended several podcasts. I mean, Chris said the property management show was Alex Osinako is someone that he suggested also. And so that's on my list to look into. And then the property management mastermind by Brad Larson. I'm always down to grab some.
That sounds like a good one. I need to add that one.
Of course, I recommended to him this really cool podcast, Techness, right?
Boom. There it is.
That's the knowledge. Oh, not to totally hijack your show, Nate, but Bobby's experience. I didn't want to walk away without talking to you guys about that.
Oh boy.
So we're about a month or two into Rent Assured, actually starting to execute against the idea we had. And, we validated it. We've done customer discovery. We've won several pitch competitions at this point. We've now gained, some funding for equity. And then Bobby looks over and she has a rental property and she has the document piece of Rent Assured with electronic documents. So she thought she was covered. She has her MBA from Wake Forest. She's been in tech for a very long time. This is a very intelligent woman. But when the people pulled up and they have a nice vehicle and they look nice, right? Perception matters. And, they had a great backstory of why they were renting. They fill out the application electronically. she went to go meet them in person, received 2 checks, one for deposit, one for first month. She went and put them in the bank. She gave them the keys. And we're good friends as well, which makes working together much easier as well. And I did not want to be the jerk. So she goes through this. And at the end of the story, I tell her, I am so sorry this happened to you. I'll help in whatever way I can. But on a positive note, glass half full, you now have a personal story in connection with Rent Assured, so we can make the product even better. So what she had is professional squatters. Those checks bounced. And they were already in the house. Yes. And she did everything that she thought, and you just, again, don't know what you don't know. But if she had Rent Assured, we would have given you best tips and practices. Then when the tenant screening also is added on, but everything would have been in writing and in communication. So the process of eviction would have went much faster. She actually had them, they first strung her along for a month with stories of, hardship. Oh, the check's coming over. We're transferring this or we're transferring that. So she was nice about that, hoping the money would come in. They gave an excuse. I don't remember what it was of why the checks bounced, but they weren't even real accounts. And then she's like, well, they have my address. We're a family. I have a young child, so I just kind of want them gone. Fast forward a few weeks, and the neighbors messaged Bobby and said that they were walking out with their washer and dryer.
Oh no!
Want to speak with the police? Yeah, broad daylight, on a dolly, bringing out the washer and dryer. So on the other side of it, you do have some people. It's a small percentage, but you do have people who will take advantage of you as a landlord. And unless you have a process in place that will protect you, there you go. You're opening your door to professional squatters. So hopefully we can prevent that as well. So that's some of our compliance features that were added on later. So
taking the washer and dryer, that is, come on, people, that's low. All right, we got the question number 3. Let's get to this last one here. Jeanna, last one of the last 3. What inspires you?
What inspires me? That is a loaded question, Nate. I guess what inspires me, if I had to just sum it up in one kind of inspirational item, it would be the fact that I'm a female founder of an all-female founded company, and I am making positive change.
That's awesome.
I get to wake up and run a company and make, crazy change and be a mentor for female founders everywhere. And as Hallmark as that sounds, I do like Hallmark movies, it is sometimes a 12 to 16-hour day. Sometimes it's a 7-day week. But what I hold true to is that feeling, and that's why I do it. No landlord or property manager is going to have to feel the way I felt crying in the corner when I found horrible damage to the property. So taking that negativity and turning it into a company that will hopefully make it so that doesn't happen to anybody else again. And doing it as a female founder and trying to gain capital, et cetera, that is what inspires me.
That's awesome. I love it.
It's not too much of an answer because
no. It's open-ended. It's for you to interpret however you like. And, I think that, inspiration comes from all different angles. I've got mine.
What is your inspiration?
Well, I've been inspired by a handful of people in my life. When I was in high school, I had this dream that you could be an entrepreneur and give back. And I didn't know that was a thing that people did. And then I met Todd Hendricks, who he and his brother Tim founded TH Property. Well, they created TH Properties as an extension to their father's carpentry business and grew it to become one of the fastest growing companies in America. They were the fastest growing home builder in America on the East Coast. And they really inspired me because of how much they connected their philanthropy mission directly to the process of building and selling homes. Tract homes as they were, custom, but still we were making a difference. Specifically, we were helping fund health and outreach missions in the dumps of Cairo. And And then I met a man named Mickey Minnick in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The guy still inspires me. He's in his 70s, works 6 days a week, 10 hours a day for free. And he runs a nonprofit called Vicky's Angel Walk, where they give 100% of the money they raise directly towards paying the bills of families fighting cancer in the central PA area. And he's able to do that business because he has a few investments that pay him. including a handful of rentals. And this is one of the life-changing, in my opinion, this is the proof of how life-changing rental real estate can truly be, in that because of that, he's not only able to provide homes for people directly in his community, but it provides him a stable income so that he can give all of his time to helping families, pay their bills while fighting cancer. And he's done this in honor of his wife who passed away. Her name was Vicky, stage 4 Hodgkin's. So people like that inspire me. I want to do similar works. So
that is inspirational.
Yeah, those are my people. Well, enough about me. Jeanna, thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing so much, for sharing your story, for going after it, for breaking down barriers. I want to give an opportunity for people listening, if they want to connect with you and get or learn more about Rent Assured, where do they go and how they do that?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Nate. This has been fun. I love the conversation. I hope people enjoyed it. And if they want to connect more, if they have an idea or they're like, hey, this is cool, I want to try it out, they can reach out to us on Twitter at BRentAssured, so BERENTASSURED, or on Facebook, again at Rent Assured, or on our website. So they can go to www.BERentAssured.com. Or you can find me here at Winston Starts, working away.
There we go. And I'll have that information in the show notes wherever you're listening to this. You can get the links directly or go to technest.io to get those links to get connected with Jeanna and Rent Assured. With that, we're going to close out, and maybe I'll see you around at one of the events. If not, we'll have to keep in touch, because I definitely want to keep pulse on where you guys are going and all your accomplishments. But thank you so much. Until then, we'll see you later.
Definitely. Love it. Thank you so much, Nate.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the TechNest podcast. Hey, don't forget, you can get on the email list so you never miss an upcoming episode. That's technest.io. That's TECHNEST.io. Get on the email list. Go to the App Store, whether you found us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you found us. Leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends. And if you've got a guest or someone that you'd like to recommend, or if you think that you'd be a great guest on the show, hey, send me an email, nate@realteampanda.com. That's nate@realteampanda.com. See you guys later.